Crimson. That was the only word for it. The dress was the color of sin, brighter than anything Sarah had dared to wear since before life got muted. Standing barefoot on the cool tiles of her Upper West Side kitchen, she wrestled with the zipper, the silk whispering against her skin. Curves she hadn't acknowledged in years were suddenly, aggressively outlined. Doubt, sharp and sudden, pricked at her. She smoothed the hem over her hips, the years having been present. Lines fanned out from the corners of her eyes, a softness where tautness used to reign. A frustrated sigh escaped her as she contorted to reach the zipper snagged halfway up her back. Impulse. That's all the dress had been, a flash of red in a department store window, a reckless grab on a lunch break. Silly now, buying a dress with no place to wear it, no one to see it on. Yet, for the first time in a long, silent stretch, she'd wanted to feel beautiful, desirable, alive. The click of the front door lock echoed through the apartment, followed by heavy footsteps. Her heart jolted. "Hey, it's me," Ethan's voice called out. Ethan, her stepson. He wasn't due back until Sunday night. He'd said weekend trip upstate, friends, hiking, solitude. That's what she'd been expecting. Quiet dinners, a book, early to bed. Panic tightened her throat. She yanked at the zipper again, futile. The thought of him finding her like this, half-dressed, flushed and flustered, made her cheeks burn. Too late. He filled the kitchen doorway, duffel slung over one shoulder, city rain slicking back his dark hair. His gaze landed on her, immediate and unwavering. Air shifted. Silence hung thick between them. His eyes lingered, taking in the crimson silk, the undone zipper exposing the bare curve of her spine, the way her breath hitched. His gaze flickered down, just for a fraction of a second, before snapping back to her face. "Sorry," he said, voice low, something she couldn't decipher threading through it. "Didn't mean to interrupt." "You're early," she stammered, turning away, fumbling with the zipper again, uselessly. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a chaotic mix of embarrassment and something else, a warmth that she refused to name. "Yeah, plans changed," he replied, stepping further into the kitchen. "What's the occasion?" He nodded towards the dress, a faint, crooked smile playing on his lips. "No occasion," she said too quickly. "Just trying it on." His smile widened, but he didn't push. He set his bag down, leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "Looks good on you," he said, tone casual, yet undeniably sincere. Heat flooded her cheeks. "Thanks," she murmured, still turned away, still battling the zipper. "Here," he said, and before she could protest, he was behind her, close. Too close. His hand brushed hers as he reached for the zipper. She froze. Every nerve ending flared to life. "No, it's fine," she started, but he cut her off, voice gentle, reassuring. "Just hold still." She obeyed, motionless as his fingers worked at the stubborn zipper. His touch was light, careful, a stark contrast to the fabric's bold hue. She felt the warmth of his body radiating behind her, the scent of rain and something distinctly, undeniably Ethan filling her senses. Then it was over. A soft click, a final tug, and the zipper slid smoothly up. "There," he said, stepping back. "All fixed." She turned to face him, unsure what to say, what to do. His eyes met hers, and for the first time she truly saw him. Not the lanky teenager who used to brood in the corners of their brownstone, but a man. Broad shoulders filled out his t-shirt. A quiet confidence radiated from him, a casual charm that drew people in. "Thanks," she whispered, voice barely audible. "Anytime," he replied, his gaze lingering a beat too long before he grabbed his bag and headed for the stairs. "I'll let you get back to it." As soon as he was gone, she exhaled, a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Her hands trembled as she smoothed the dress again, her mind racing. Nothing. It was nothing. Just an awkward moment, a silly misunderstanding. But as she stood there in the quiet kitchen, the phantom warmth of his hand still tingling on her back, she couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted, something she wasn't ready to confront. Dinner wasn't planned. It rarely was anymore. Cooking for one had become a practiced routine after years of quiet evenings. Tonight, salmon, roasted vegetables, a glass of Pinot Grigio for company. Ethan's unexpected return, however, cast a different light on the evening. Self-conscious. That's how she felt, Ethan across the kitchen table. His presence filled the room, his easy smile a stark contrast to the turmoil churning in her chest. As she moved around the kitchen, she felt his eyes on her. Not staring, not intrusive, but watchful, making her acutely aware of every movement, every gesture. "You don't have to fuss," he said, leaning back in his chair, amusement in his voice. "I'm not fussing," she replied, sliding the salmon into the oven, voice steady inside a tremor. "You've got to eat, don't you?" "Could have grabbed takeout," he shrugged, "but I'm not complaining. You're a better cook than Seamless." She glanced at him over her shoulder. "That's not saying much. You used to burn toast when you were a teenager." He laughed, the sound warm, genuine, and for a fleeting moment, the strange undercurrent from earlier dissipated. "True," he admitted, shaking his head, "but I've evolved. A little." "Meaning you can handle more than ramen now?" she teased, setting the table. His grin widened. "Hey, I make a mean grilled cheese," he shot back, hands raised in mock defense. The light-hearted banter eased some of the tension. Setting the silverware, she allowed herself to relax. Just dinner, just the two of them, like countless evenings before. But it wasn't like before. Ethan had changed, grown into himself in ways that still caught her off guard. The boy who slumped at the table, glued to his phone, was now a man. Quiet confidence in his posture, easy flow of conversation, a warmth in his voice as he asked about her day, her work at the gallery, even the history book she'd been reading. "Still into history, huh?" he said, nodding towards the dog-eared paperback on the counter. "Always," she replied, twirling roasted carrots on her fork. "Fascinating to see how much the past shapes us." He tilted his head, considering. "You think people really change, or are we just stuck with who we are deep down?" The question caught her off guard. "I think we can change," she said carefully, meeting his gaze. "But it's not easy. Takes effort. Sometimes someone else to push." He nodded, expression thoughtful. "Yeah, guess that's true." The way he looked at her then, steady, searching, tightened her chest. Too intimate, too knowing, she cleared her throat, breaking the gaze. "What about you?" she asked, forcing lightness into her tone. "Work?" He leaned back, running a hand through his hair. "Fine. Busy, but fine. Nothing earth-shattering." "You've been working so hard," she said, the words softer than intended. "You should take a break." He smiled faintly, a weariness in his eyes that hadn't been there before. "Been thinking about that," he admitted. "Maybe take some time, figure out what I actually want." "Good," she said firmly. "You deserve it." His smile widened, and for a moment the air lightened. As the meal wound down, she gathered plates, rinsing them at the sink. Ethan joined her, leaning against the counter with a dish towel. "Don't have to," she said, glancing at him. He shrugged. "Don't mind." Comfortable silence settled between them. But when their hands brushed as she handed him a plate, she felt it again. That quiet spark, unexpected, undeniable. She pulled back quickly, focused on the dishes, but her pulse had already quickened. "Thanks for dinner," he said after a moment, voice soft. "You're welcome," she replied, gaze fixed on the sink. When she finally looked up, he was watching her again. Expression unreadable. Thought he might say something. Instead, he just smiled, set the last dish on the drying rack. "Good night," he said, tone lingering. "Good night," she murmured, voice barely audible over the dishwasher's hum. Alone in the quiet kitchen, she pressed her hands against the cool counter, trying to steady herself. The brownstone felt too big, too empty. The warmth he'd left behind echoed in the silence. And for the first time in years, she wasn't sure if the loneliness was entirely her own. Rain started late, a steady drumming against the windows, filling the apartment with a soothing rhythm. She settled in the living room, tea in hand, lamplight casting a warm glow over her book. But she wasn't reading. Words swam on the page, meaningless. Thoughts drifted back to dinner, Ethan's laugh, the brush of his hand. Nothing, she told herself again, for the 100th time. Just kindness, politeness. But her body refused to let go of the memory. Restless, on edge. She sighed, closing the book. Rain intensified, a low rumble of thunder in the distance. Dishes, something to occupy her hands. Distraction. Kitchen light flicked on. Clearing the counter, small, mundane motions helped for a moment. Reaching for the last plate, floorboards creaked behind her. Can't sleep either. His voice startled her, low, soft, cutting through the quiet. She turned, hand still on the plate. Ethan, doorway. Barefoot, white t-shirt, loose sweats low on his hips. Hair tousled, just out of bed. Drowsy warmth in his eyes made her breath catch. "Didn't mean to scare you," he said, small smile. "You didn't," she replied quickly, though her heart raced. "Just couldn't sleep either. Thought I'd tidy up." He stepped into the kitchen, movements unhurried. Rain keeping you up? Something like that, she said, sliding the plate into the cabinet. He leaned against the counter, watching her, that same steady gaze from dinner, unsettling. You always keep busy, he said, tone thoughtful. Guess I do, she admitted, wiping hands on a towel. Old habits. Ethan chuckled, a deep, quiet sound that settled in the air between them. Remember, always like that, always moving, always doing. Dad used to say you didn't know how to sit still. Mention of his father tightened her chest, but his tone, fond, softened the sting. Someone had to keep things running, she said lightly, voice wavering just enough. Ethan's expression shifted, smile fading, gentler. You've done a lot for us, he said quietly. For me, hope you know that. Sincerity caught her off guard. Just did what I thought was right. Well, he said, voice dropping slightly, meant a lot. She looked up. Intensity in his eyes quickened her pulse. Unspoken. Something heavy, charged. Break it. Space. Reaching for the towel, fingers brushed his hand. Froze. Accidental touch, fleeting, harmless. But sensation of his skin sent a jolt through her. Pulled back quickly, muttering apology. He didn't move. It's okay, he said softly, voice steady. Turned to face him again. Look in his eyes made her breath catch, not smiling anymore. Watching her with intensity, disarming, magnetic. Ethan, she began, whisper. I know, he said, cutting her off gently, tone calm, quiet resolve. No, this is complicated. Stepped closer, slow, deliberate, back against counter, not touching. Space disappeared. Heat of his body, faint scent, lingered. Don't have to say anything, he continued, voice soft but firm. Just need you to know how much you mean to me, how much you've always meant to me. Speechless, mind racing, whirlwind of emotions, confusion, guilt, fear, something else, heart pounding, knees weak. Ethan, she said again, voice trembling, it's not. I know, he said again, gaze never leaving hers. Just had to say it. Silence. Rain quieted. Only sound. Refrigerator hum. Then, just as quickly, stepped back. Space returned. Tension dissipated. Echo of his words. Good night, he said quietly, almost whisper. Good night, she managed, voice barely audible. Stood in kitchen long after he was gone, hands gripping counter. Steady herself. Rain continued outside, soft, unrelenting. Washing something away or bringing something to life. Rain hadn't stopped by morning. Downpour, yard a blur of gray and green. Storm settled in. Thick clouds, wind rattling windows. Living room window, second cup of coffee, book forgotten in lap. Thoughts tangled. Memory of last night, his voice, words, lingering, circling. How much you mean to me. Told herself, don't read into it. Don't let mind wander. But the look in his eyes, intensity, couldn't ignore. Footsteps. Looked up. Ethan entered room, blanket over shoulder, cereal bowl. Morning, he said, boyish grin, damp hair, black hoodie clinging to broad shoulders. Morning, she replied, voice steady, flicker of nervous energy. He dropped onto couch, blanket over armrest, cereal. Still raining, huh? Looks like it, she said, window glance. Guess we're stuck inside, he shrugged, casual tone. Not a bad day for it, though. Nodded, coffee sip, comfortable silence, rain-filled space. Reading anything good? He asked. Nod to book. Just a novel, she said, holding it up. Nothing exciting. He squinted at cover, grinned. History again? Guilty, she admitted, smiling despite herself. Consistent, give you that, he teased, cereal bite, chuckled, setting book aside. What about you? Big plan for rainy day? This, he said, blanket and cereal gesture. Thinking movie or something. You want to join? Hesitated. Afternoon on couch with him. Dangerous. But no, seemed impossible. Sure, she said finally, light tone. What are we watching? Your pick, he said. Empty bowl on coffee table, remote grab. Laughed softly. Don't even know what's on. Padded cushion beside him. Grin. Come on, we'll figure it out. Nothing unusual, outwardly inappropriate. But as she stood, crossed room, sat beside him, pulse quickened, couch big, Space between them, but sitting, realized how close. Ethan pulled blanket over them, arm brushed hers, settled back. Warmth immediate, fought urge to shift away. Comfortable? He asked, glancing at her. Fine, she said, quieter than intended. He smiled, screen attention, scrolling options. What about this? He asked. Movie stop. Didn't recognize title. Looks fine, she said, not paying attention. Movie started. Barely registered opening scenes. Focus splintered. Sound of breathing, faint cologne, arm casually along couch back, close to shoulder. Blanket slipped from lap. Ethan leaned forward, fixed it, hand brushed leg, pulled it up, froze. Harmless gesture, but jolt. You okay? He asked, low voice. Yes, she said quickly, cheeks flushing. Didn't press. Hand lingered moment longer, leaned back again. Movie played on. Tension unbearable, unspoken, unacknowledged, humming silence. Heart raced. Every shift, every arm brush, every glance. Rain outside, soft, steady, constant rhythm, matched heart pounding. Credits rolled. Breath held for hours. Ethan turned, easy expression, hadn't felt tension. Not bad, he said, stretching arms. Yeah, she murmured, forced smile. Stood, gathered blanket, stayed on couch, watching rain. Quiet weight of afternoon pressed heavily. Something building, something neither knew how to stop. Brownstone dark, quiet, rain patter outside. Past midnight, sleep impossible. Tossed, turned, mind tangled, body restless. Gave up. Robe, soft fabric tied loosely. Hallway, kitchen, glass of water. Settle her. Refrigerator light glowed, cool air. Stood there blankly staring at bottles, containers. Heard it. Floorboards creaked behind her. Turned, startled. Ethan. Doorway, barefoot, t-shirt, sweats. Hair tousled, sleep. Expression soft. Eyes heavy-lidded, flicker of surprise. Couldn't sleep? He asked. Low, quiet voice. No, she admitted, closing fridge. You? He shook head, stepping into room. Not really. Silence. Stretched out. Not uncomfortable, charged, heavy with unsaid things, grabbed glass, cabinet, water, back turned, distance between them, felt his presence, weight in air, solid, unyielding. You've been quiet today, he said suddenly, careful tone. Turned to face him, glass in hands. Have I? He nodded, leaning against counter. More than usual. Looked down at water, cool surface rippling. Just a lot on my mind. Like what? Question hung in air. Simple, loaded, didn't know how to answer. His gaze on her. Steady, unrelenting. Urge to deflect. Change subject. Hesitated. Hard to explain, she said finally, whisper. Try me, he said. Softness in voice nearly undid her. Looked up at him then. Sincerity in expression, openness, quiet patience. Chest ached. Not pushing, demanding, not going to let her hide. Just... She hesitated, searching for words. Sometimes feel like I've forgotten how to let people in, how to let myself feel things. Ethan frowned, brow furrowed. Don't think you feel things? No, I do, she said quickly. But it's complicated. Easier to bury things, keep moving, than to stop and actually deal with them. He nodded slowly, understood more than he let on. Get that, he said quietly. Do you? She asked, soft voice, curiosity, gaze flickered. Thought he might look away. Didn't. Stepped closer, distance closed, counter between them. I do, he said, steady voice. Easier to pretend you're okay, keep things bottled up, than to risk whatever happens when you let it all out. Quiet conviction in tone made her heart ache, more to his words, look in eyes. Ethan, she began. He cut her off, voice firm but gentle. Let me finish, he said, deep breath. Been keeping things in for a long time, thought I could just ignore them, move on, act like they didn't matter. But I can't anymore. Pulse quicken, breath catching. Words sank in. What are you trying to say? She asked, barely audible. He hesitated, jaw tightening, struggle in expression, push and pull. I care about you, he said finally, low but resolute voice. More than I should, more than I ever expected to. Confession hit like wave, weight of words breathless. Open mouth to respond, no words came. I know it's not fair, he continued, quieter tone, almost apologetic. I know it's complicated, but I can't keep pretending I don't feel this way. Vulnerability, raw honesty made her chest tighten, emotions bubbling to surface, years of loneliness, yearning, crashing against walls she'd built. Ethan, she said softly, shaking head, this isn't. I know, he said, cutting her off again. No, it's not simple, and I know what you're going to say, but I just needed you to know. Silence. Rain outside, only sound. Tears, stinging corners of eyes, blinked them away. Hands trembling, set glass down on counter. Don't know what to say, she admitted, voice breaking. You don't have to say anything, he said, unwavering gaze. Just needed to be honest with you. Words hung in air, heavy, unrelenting. Something inside her shifted, couldn't ignore. Rain stopped by morning, heavy mist, windows softened light. Brownstone didn't feel lighter, air thicker. Memory of Ethan's confession weighed down. Spent day avoiding him. Room, cleaning old boxes. Untouched a single thing. Words echoed. More than I should. Weight in chest like stone. Vulnerability of moment. Late hour. Rain-soaked quiet. Loosened tongue. Deeper part of her knew that wasn't true. Honesty in voice. Certainty in eyes. Mid-afternoon. Gave up pretending. Downstairs. Restless. Occupy hands. Drown out noise in head. Living room, stopped short. Ethan there, couch, elbows on knees, head bowed, not noticed her yet. Considered slipping back upstairs. Posture, tension in shoulders, hands clasped tightly made her stay. Ethan looked up, startled. Brief moment, expression open, raw, shifted, face smoothing, calmer, controlled. Hey, he said, leaning back against couch. Everything okay? She asked. Already knew answer. Shrugged. Small, half-hearted gesture. Yeah, just thinking. Hesitated. Silence stretching out. Taut wire, moved closer, armchair edge across from him. About last night, she asked quietly. He nodded, gaze dropping to hands. Yeah. Wanted to say something, ease tension. Words wouldn't come. Watched him, jaw tighten, fingers flex. I'm sorry, he said suddenly, voice breaking quiet. Didn't mean to make things weird. You didn't, she said quickly, lie heavy, looked up then, eyes meeting hers. Intensity made her breath catch. I did, he said firmly, and I'm sorry for that, but I'm not sorry for being honest. Conviction sent shiver through her, defenses faltering, walls cracking. Ethan, this is complicated, she said, voice trembling. I know, he said, softer tone, but that doesn't make it any less real. Open mouth to respond. He stood before she could speak. Let me show you something, he said, quieter, almost hesitant voice. Before she could ask, walked to window, gestured for her to join him. Reluctantly stood, slow, uncertain steps. Reached him, turned to face her, expression unreadable. Remember when we planted that tree? He asked, nod to oaken yard. Glanced out window, memory surfaced. Of course, she said softly. Years ago, not long after marriage, Ethan teenager, gangly limbs, quiet defiance, planted tree together, family, digging, laughing, teasing. Supposed to be Dad's tree, Ethan said, distant voice. But now, every time I see it, I think of you. Looked at him, startled. Think about how you were always the one holding everything together, he continued, gaze fixed on tree. Even when it wasn't easy, even when I didn't make it easy. Ethan. He turned to her then, eyes searching hers. Don't know when it happened, he said quietly, but somewhere along the way, stopped thinking of you as just Dad's wife. And I know it's not fair to put this on you, but I can't pretend I don't feel this way. Words hung in air, heavy, unrelenting. Couldn't breathe. This isn't, she began, voice faltering. Ethan, we can't. Why not? He interrupted, soft but insistent tone. Because it's wrong, she said, voice trembling. Is it? He asked, stepping closer. Or are we just scared of what people might think? Proximity impossible to think, words cutting through excuses, rationalizations. Ethan, please, she whispered, barely audible. He hesitated moment, gaze searching hers. Conflict in expression, push and pull, reached for her then. Hand brushed hers, touch sent shockwave. Simple gesture, fleeting contact. Shattered fragile barrier. Hand touched hers, world seemed to fall away. Sounds of brownstone, wind outside, disappeared. Only warmth of his skin, Simple thing, small gesture. Carried weight of unspoken things. Should have pulled away. Said something. End this. Couldn't. Stood there, frozen. Fingers brushed hers again, lingering. Pulse quicken, heart pounding, wild rhythm. Nathan, she whispered, voice trembling. He stepped closer, slow, deliberate, afraid to startle her. Hand slid up arm, touch light but firm. Shiver. You don't have to say anything, he said softly. Steady, calm voice. Just tell me to stop, and I will. Opened mouth, no words. Mind whirlwind. Fear, guilt, longing, chaotic storm. Unable to think clearly. Took another step, closed distance. Heat of body. Hand moved to cheek, thumb brushing lightly. Tenderness made breath catch. You mean so much to me, he murmured, eyes locked on hers. More than you'll ever know. Tears stung eyes, blinked them away, hands trembling at sides. This isn't right, she said weakly. Hollow words. Maybe not, he said quietly, thumb still tracing gentle circles. But it feels right, doesn't it? Couldn't answer. Mind screaming, pull away, end this. Body betrayed her, leaning into touch, drawn to warmth, comfort. Before she could think, lips brushed against hers. Tentative at first, hesitant. Last chance to pull away. Didn't, couldn't, sank into kiss, eyes fluttering shut. Tension broke like dam. Hand slid to back of neck, pulling her closer. Kiss deepened, fierce, desperate. Emotions held back, fear, longing, confusion poured out. Lips warm, insistent, touch firm, reverent, clinging to him, hands fisting in shirt fabric. Ethan, she breathed against his lips, name trembling, plea and surrender, pulled back slightly, forehead resting against hers. Tell me to stop, he said again, raw voice. Tell me, and I'll walk away, I swear. Should have told him, said words to end this. Look in eyes, vulnerability, longing undid her. I can't, she whispered, voice breaking. I can't. Admission all he needed. Hand slid down to waist, pulling her against him. Breath hitched as she responded, arms wrapping around neck. Kissed her again, harder, lips moving with urgency, spark of heat. Backing up, legs hitting couch edge, sinking into cushions. Weight pressing her down, overwhelming, impossibly right. Hands roamed carefully, reverently, tracing curve of hip, line of thigh. Memorizing every inch. Robe fell open, not undone. Shivered as fingers brushed bare skin. You're beautiful, he murmured, voice thick with emotion. Wanted to protest, tell him wrong. Way he looked, touched. Impossible to argue. Made her feel beautiful. Years. Lips traveled from mouth to jaw, neck. Soft gasp escaped. Fingers tangled in hair, holding him close. Every nerve alive under his touch. Time blurred, moments melting, only 2 of them. Soft hum of breath against skin, steady heartbeat beneath palms, overwhelming sense of wanted, cherished. Only when lay still, heat fading into quiet intimacy, weight of what happened settled. Ethan's arms still around her, face buried in neck. Breath slow, steady against skin. I'm sorry, he whispered, barely audible. For what? She asked, soft voice. For everything, he said, pulling back, meeting gaze. For complicating things, making this harder for you. Shook head, tears stinging eyes again. It's not just you, she said. I'm just as responsible. Truth hung between them, unspoken, undeniable. Lay there, tangled together on couch. Weight of what they'd done, warmth of what they'd shared. Pale dawn light crept through windows, painting living room muted golds and grays. Woke to faint rain scent, warmer, tangible something. Him. Ethan's arm draped around her, breathing deep, even, chest rising, falling, hypnotic rhythm. Lay still, unwilling to move, break fragile spell. Light grew stronger, weight of reality pressed against her. Relentless, unavoidable. Warmth of his body, hand on waist. Comforting reminder. What had they done? Chest tightened, memories of last night. Vivid detail. Look in eyes, voice trembling, said her name. Let herself fall into arms. Every warning bell. Closed eyes, wave of guilt. Slowly pulled away. Ethan, she whispered, barely audible. Stirred, brow furrowed, eyes fluttered open. Moment, looked at her, didn't remember where he was. Gaze softened. Sleepy smile. Good morning, he murmured, rough voice. Couldn't return smile. We need to talk. Words like cold water, shift in expression, warmth in eyes dimmed, reality sinking in. Yeah, he said quietly, sitting up, running hand through tousled hair, pulled robe tighter, exposed, not appearance. Sat on edge of couch, hands clasped in lap, stared at floor. Right words. This can't happen again, she said finally, voice trembling. Ethan didn't respond right away, glanced at him, watching her, expression unreadable, sadness, resolve. Why not? He asked softly. Question caught her off guard, hesitated, thoughts racing. Because it's not right, she said. Because it's complicated. Stood, pacing room, hands clenched fists at sides. I'm not a kid anymore, you know that. That doesn't change anything, she said, voice breaking. People wouldn't understand. Do you care what they think? He asked, sharp tone, not unkind. Or are you just scared? Words hit like blow, flush of anger, at him for saying it, at herself, truth in what he said. Of course I'm scared, she snapped, louder than intended. This isn't just about me, Ethan. Affects you too. Your family, your future, everything. He stood then, pacing, hands clenched. You're making it sound like I don't know what I'm doing, he said, low voice. Like I haven't thought about this. But I have, for months. And I'm not saying it'll be easy, but you're worth it. Words made heart ache. Moment, couldn't speak. Vulnerability, quiet conviction, almost too much. Ethan, she said softly, standing, reaching for him. You don't know what you're asking. He turned to face her, eyes searching hers. I'm asking for a chance, he said. Chance to prove this doesn't have to be wrong. We don't have to let other people's expectations define us. Tears stung eyes, shook head, voice trembling. You deserve someone who can give you everything, Ethan. Someone who doesn't come with all this baggage. I don't care about that, he said, stepping closer. You're everything I want. Don't you see that? Raw emotion, way he looked at her, an only thing that mattered, overwhelming. Don't know if I can do this, she admitted, voice breaking. Then don't decide now, he said, softer tone. Just think about it, that's all I'm asking. Words hung in air, neither moved. Morning light spilled into room, illuminating space between them, weight of decision pressing down. I need time, she said finally, whisper. Ethan nodded, mix of hope, resignation. Take all the time you need, he said quietly. Stepped back, giving space. Relief, strange sense of loss. Distance grew. Turned, walked towards stairs, stood there in quiet. Thoughts tangled mess. Guilt, fear, something else. Footsteps faded. Alone in golden light. Wondered if she'd ever find strength to make choice ahead. Brownstone quiet again. Stillness when everyone gone about day. Ethan left hour ago. Needed air, echoes of words, weight of thoughts. Nook by kitchen window, tea growing cold. Stared at backyard, oak tree tall, branches wide, strong. Rain droplets clinging to leaves, grown so much. Roots deep, trunk thick, steady. Day they planted it, hope symbolized. Closed eyes, memory washed over. Ethan boy back then. Face soft, childhood remnants, sulked yard work. End of day, laughter, patting soil, cheeks smudged dirt. Easy to remember him that way. Safe, uncomplicated version. Wasn't who he was anymore. Not a boy. Long time. Opened eyes. Fingers tightened around mug. Ethan's words replayed. Asking for a chance. Prove this doesn't have to be wrong. What would that look like? Life stopped pretending. Hiding. Whispers. Judgment. How people would look if they knew. Risk of losing him altogether. Driving him away if refused to acknowledge truth. More than that, what'd it mean for her? Years, told herself role to care for others. Steady one, reliable, wife, stepmother, caretaker. Not allowed herself to think what she wanted, not really, since his father passed. Crossroads, unexpected, choice impossible. Set mug down, fingers press temples. Make sense of storm inside. Not just him, not just us. Everything denied herself. Warmth of touch, way he looked last night, made her feel wanted, seen, alive. Shaken something loose. Missing, hadn't realized. Fear lingered. What if wrong? Fleeting moment. Loneliness, longing, giving in, more pain for both. Didn't have answers. Front door opening pulled from thoughts. Looked up. Ethan stepped into room, damp hair, mist outside, expression unreadable. Didn't mean to interrupt, he said quietly, careful voice. You're not, she replied, voice soft. He hesitated, eyes flicking to teacup, stepped closer. Just wanted to check on you, he said. Make sure you're okay. Nodded. Not entirely sure true. I'm fine. Silence stretched out, thick with unsaid things. Tension in posture, hands curled loose fists, bracing himself. Ethan, she began, voice trembling slightly, looked at her, eyes filled with raw honesty, undone her last night. Yeah? Deep breath, hands clenching in lap. Don't know what future looks like. Don't know if this is something we can ever really have. Jaw tightened, didn't look away. But, he prompted, low voice. But I can't ignore how I feel, she admitted, voice breaking. Don't know what that means yet, but I know I can't pretend it isn't there. Moment. Didn't say anything. Stepped closer then. Movements careful, afraid of scaring her off. That's all I needed to hear, he said quietly. Tears welling up again. Looked away, blinking them back. This isn't going to be easy, she said, voice shaking. I'm not afraid of hard, he said, firm tone. I'm afraid of losing you. Sincerity broke something in her. Sob rose in throat, reached for hand, touch warm, steady, let him take it, fingers trembling in his. Long moment stood there, silence filled with things they couldn't yet say. Don't know what happens next, she said finally, whisper. Neither do I, he replied, thumb brushing back of hand. But we'll figure it out, together. Words settled over her like promise. Fragile, unyielding, first time in forever allowed herself to hope. Morning light spilled across room, held onto his hand a little tighter, warmth steadying her. Whatever came next, knew wouldn't be easy. But now, in quiet moment, let herself believe it might just be worth it.